Hello and good morning to our webinar, Web Accessibility. Today here in the English. Yesterday we had the German version. So if you have missed this, then you can watch the German version on our website. This English version we are recording also. We are also putting it on our website. So you can watch this also later. If you joined later, you did not miss so much. The webinar today is that's the quick agenda here. We have a quick welcome now, then introduction on digital accessibility. So what it is, what you need to do, etc. The standards and the regulations, so the EEA and the WCAG, these things, how to enhance the website accessibility, what you can do to improve this, and view on business opportunities for website owners. So why is accessibility also good for you? And at the end, I will give a live demo on the Content Manager accessibility widget and the new scanner feature that we're having, so that you can actually see how it will look and how you can use it, etc. The webinar is recorded, as said. We put the video and the PowerPoint or the PDF version of the PowerPoint. We put it on our website. You can download it later, or you can watch it, rewatch it if you want. Just go into our website, contentmanager.net, and then on the right side is knowledge, and there you find our blog and all the information. With me here today is Eduardo from Accessiway. Maybe Eduardo, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jan, for the nice opportunity. I'm Eduardo Arnello. I started Accessiway as a first employee in 2021. I now run the Italian entity and I support the rest of the country in their growth. And I'm very happy to be here today.
Okay, yeah. Just for the background information, so Content Manager, Accessiway, we are basically sister companies. Accessiway is focusing on accessibility. That's why we have the special guest here today. While Content Manager, as you know, is focusing on GDPR compliance and everything else. As part of our compliance program, we also offer the accessibility widget, which is a smaller version of the Accessiway widget, so the widget that Accessiway is also providing to their clients. So that's quickly on the background. And then let's go right into it. If you want to take over, Eduardo.
Of course. Thank you very much. So it's important that when understanding digital accessibility and the requirements that every company will need to face very soon, we start from the definition of digital accessibility. So what does accessibility means? Accessibility refers to, and I will read and then take it from there. So accessibility refers to the ability of information system to provide services and information that can be used without discrimination, even by those who, due to disabilities, require assistive technology or particular configurations. So basically, it is the ability of application, websites, and anything that is a digital interface with people to be used by people with disabilities. Now, this means many different things because we are looking at a very vast group of people with many possible needs. Something that we always say is that sooner or later during our life, every one of us will have a certain disability, because disabilities can be permanent, temporary, sensitive, cognitive, related to aging, and so on. So we're looking at, you need to think about, again, disabilities that come with aging, so small visual impairments, cognitive disabilities, visual impairments like color blindness or severe visual impairments, full blindness, but also motor disabilities, so like people that cannot use a mouse and so need to navigate with a keyboard, but also cognitive disability that need more understandable context and easy to use application, even going to issues with focus and ADHD, which might be affected by too many elements in a page, to seizures and epilepsy that can have issues with animation and flashes. So all of these possible needs and many more is what people can have, are what people can have, and this is why it's super important that everything is accessible, because as you can imagine, we are looking at a very vast group of people, as we will see also later in the presentation. So to sum it up, accessibility is the ability of digital assets to be used by any person, so every possible user. And this is what is the requirement of the law. So looking at the directive and the actual, so what does it come in force and for who, that we can see from the next slide.
One second, I just remembered in the introduction, I forgot to mention in the Zoom bar there is a Q&A function that you all can
Yeah.
use. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in this Q&A function. We will collect them all, and then at the end of the session, we will have some time to go through the questions. So yeah, please feel free to put the questions there. So, and then the next slide. So go on.
Great, thank you. So, what is the law that we're speaking about? The European Accessibility Act is the law that basically sets the standard for all European countries and sets a very specific deadline for all European countries to implement digital accessibility law. So there is a directive, so it's not a ruling like GDPR. So it means that every country needs to adapt it with a national law by June 28th, which is also the same date in which the law must come into effect. The European Accessibility Act applies to all companies, private and public, with 10 or more employees, or with an annual turnover or balance sheet exceeding 2 million, selling products and services in the European Union, including UK-based business exporting to the EU. Meaning that if you are a company that, well, so what does it mean selling products and services? Let's focus on the service aspect, obviously, when it comes to websites and digital assets. If you have a so if your company is part of this group, enter in this category, and on your website you have anything that is related to a transaction, so a form that allow user to set a meeting to learn more about service and then eventually perform a transaction, or a booking form or a checkout. So anything that is an interactive call to action that allows the user to perform a transaction, even if the transaction doesn't conclude on the website, is this means providing a service. And because of this reason, the website attachment needs to be accessible. So this is the main obligation that we're looking at. And it's an obligation that is valid for both product and service, as we can see in the next slide. For product, there are different requirements. So if we're looking at digital product, we look at the self-service terminals such as ticket machine, ATMs, check-in kiosks, but also obviously smartphones, TV equipments, e-readers, and so on. And obviously, e-commerce services and websites are also entering in this category, as well as hardware products. Services provided to EU customers are instead electronic communication, banking services, again, e-commerce, e-books, transportation services, super important and highly covered by accessibility regulation, also offline, obviously, and digital services providing access to audiovisual media. So if your company does any of these things, you should really be aware of the European accessibility requirements, and you should also be aware of the important due date, which we are going to say once more, and clear in the next slide, which is that by June 28th, all products and services on the European market will have to comply with the accessibility requirements. In certain cases, there are certain exemptions. So, for example, if you're speaking about a physical product that entered the market before June 28, there are certain exemptions. But if you're looking at a website or an application, any update that you will do after June 28 will need to be accessible. So basically, the website that you have need to be accessible by that time, because assuming that you update the content quite often, you need to be ready to have an accessible framework and an accessible website by that date. Now, going a bit more into the details of how this law is enforced. So enforcement day is June 28, but what are the risks that we're really facing if we're not complying with the date? We can see in the next slide that, so first of all, the important part is that the products must have the CE mark and the EU declaration of conformity. So if you're not looking at hardware, especially now looking at websites and mobile application, we need to produce a declaration of conformity, which is basically a document that you should include in the terms of service section of your website, in which you explain what you have done to comply with accessibility regulations, and therefore why and how the touchpoint is accessible. In this case, if the statement is not correct, there might be sanctions, but as well as if accessibility is not met, there might be sanctions. And the risks are the most important: product or service withdrawal from the market, service blackout or mobile app withdrawal from the app stores, and fines range from 5,000 to 250,000 for small and medium enterprises, depending on EU member states. When it comes to German specific regulations, we're looking to fines up to 100,000, but I think, and we all think, that the most serious consequence to keep in mind is the service blackout and the service suspension, because obviously all companies invest highly in their digital ecosystem and websites and applications for a reason: to generate revenues and to be seen. And the risk of having the service blacked out for weeks or months, it's obviously very high, regardless of the possible sanctions, which obviously still are relevant. But if we look especially at the e-commerce sector, it's definitely a very high risk. Now, how do we do this, and what is the standard? What are the rules that we need to meet? What tells us if a website or an application is truly accessible? There is and this is something that I think it's really great about accessibility regulations, that there is a worldwide recognized standard, which helps especially companies active in multiple countries, because at the end, an accessible website is accessible everywhere. And in order to be accessible, you need to think about rules that are always valid. And these rules are the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and they provide a framework to make web content accessible to all users, including those with disabilities. So you need to imagine a 1,000 pages book explaining how every possible element of a website, any possible element of a digital asset should be coded in order to be accessible. The standard is a set of instructions. So it's a standard that allows anyone who use it, regardless of the specific cases that might arise, on how to develop properly in order to be accessible in a way that is accessible for all. Obviously, these standards are built knowing and taking into consideration what people with disability use on a personal side, like on their devices, as assistive technology, etc., to interact with website and application. And so knowing that certain things will be brought by the users, we need to work in a way that the environment in which the user arrives is accessible and compatible. I give an example. So all the rules about making website accessible to blind users are rules that know that every blind user will use a screen reader to navigate a website. The screen reader is a software installed on the user device. We need to make sure that the website is compatible with the device, with the screen reader. Exactly as you have rules to make a public space accessible to wheelchairs, knowing that the person will come with a wheelchair and you need to be compatible with that. Web content accessibility guidelines instruct on how to be compatible with guidelines. Now, going a bit slightly into the details of the standards, with the next slide, we can see the 4 main principles of WCAG, which are perceivable, understandable, operable, and robust. Perceivable information and user interface components must be presentable to users in ways they can perceive. So this regards especially the UI of environments that are built, easy to understand, easy to see, let's say clear and intuitive also. Understandable information and operation of the user interface must be understandable. So it means like if there is a flow that I need to do. So to buy something, I need to add something to the cart and then go to the cart and proceed with the checkout and pay. All of this needs to be clearly understandable. It's very common that we build user experiences that are not really understandable or easy. And this is also an aspect that is a very good example of how accessibility is an enhancement of user experience in general. If you build an understandable user flow, it will not be understandable only to people that have cognitive disability or are extremely old, but it will be easy and understandable for everyone. iPhones and iOS is super understandable, and the result is that is one of the best UX in the world. So this is something that we always need to keep in mind, and is a very good example of when we study the UX, we need to, and so when we study the user experience, we need to think about every user, and this is a great result for everyone. Robust content must be robust enough to work with current and future user agents, including assistive technologies, different browsers, different devices, mobile, desktop. Again, assistive technologies is something that needs to be taken into account, and operable user interfaces component must be operable by the user. Example, again, it's also regarding compatibility with screen readers, but they need to function. An example of not operable is a broken link. There is a link somewhere, you try to click on it, it doesn't work, that's not operable, that's not accessible. So this is the core principle that create the standards, and then are declined and adapted to all specific instruction for all possible components. So going forward, how do WCAG interact with the European Accessibility Act? Basically, the European Accessibility Act tells who needs to be accessible and what are the informants. So it's the law explaining who's affected by it, what is the informant, what are the dates, also who are in the different countries, and when it's adapted, who are the bodies to perform the enforcement, and says clearly that you need to be accessible by respecting and adapting this accessibility standards, and it's citing and referring to the WCAG. You can be accessible also if you don't precisely respect the WCAG, but it's just easier if you do, because WCAG is the best possible standard and easy to understand standard to build accessible experiences. So the ultimate goal of the European Accessibility Act is for Touchpoint to be accessible, and this WCAG is the cited standard, the referred standard. So is the best, the easiest way to reach accessibility. There are cases in which you might also find other ways to do it, but it was simply like be an extra effort. So just keep in mind that if you want to be compliant with the European Accessibility Act, your website needs to be compliant with the WCAG. And once you are compliant with WCAG, you are compliant with generally every accessibility regulation in the world. Because of this, and as I said before, just to link to the next topic, we need to understand that, and we can see in the next slide, the aligning with WCAG is the way to reduce legal risk and improve usability and support inclusive design. And as I said before, if we build accessible experiences and if we build accessible environments, we are actually building better products. So it's not just, it's important that we see accessibility not only as a legal requirement and something that we need to do to check the next legal boxes and be sure that we don't have risk, but it's really a great opportunity. And now let's go and let's deep dive more into why accessibility is an opportunity. So going from the most obvious one, I would say the ESG agenda and sustainability is something that is increasingly growing and is an increasing priority, especially in the European landscape. And companies that are sustainable and work towards equality are really benefiting. We can see among many different reports, especially in the younger generation, that there is a great value in building a brand around inclusivity. So if you are accessible and you work seriously towards accessibility, you can definitely communicate it, and your brand can benefit from it. There are serious economic advantages that also we will see in the next slides, that are also related to the simple fact that, again, accessibility improves user experience, improves conversion, and so generally accessible environments are environments that convert better and generate more traffic. So if you're building a digital asset, it's probably because there is a business interest in it, and accessible environment is more effective. And obviously, we're looking at a massive group of people and target audience. These people with disability are the largest minority in the world. So it's quite intuitive how many advantages can be derived from being accessible, but you will see in the next slides. And obviously, corporate social responsibility, it's an increasing goal, as I said before, in many companies, and accessibility cannot be left aside. And also you will see that and this is what we're seeing from all of our clients, when you will start working towards accessibility, you will learn about it, and your team will be more educated about accessibility and inclusiveness of people with disability. Many people will become passionate about it, and the overall company really will feel the social responsibility of working accessible, because again, it's something that is about every one of us, and it's super important to keep it in mind. Now, going into some data about the improvement and the advantages, a study done by SEMrush on more than 900 websites shows how accessibility improves SEO. So we can see that 73% of sites have seen growth in organic traffic. 66% of them saw an increase of more than 50% in organic traffic, and 12 have had an average growth in traffic. 12% have another growth in traffic that is still positive. So this is really, I think, significant, especially when we're looking at a very important topic such as SEO, that nowadays is super critical, especially when comparing to competition. Again, it's important to keep it in mind. Looking at purchase power and the big target that I mentioned before, and it will be my last slide for today. Again, and I'm very, I can easily say this, not working a lot with people with disability and associations on a daily basis. It's important that we see people with disabilities as customers and people as I mean, they do exactly what we do every day. They work, they spend money, they travel, they have friends, they have families, they buy presents, they book hotels. Really, they do everything we do. And it's important that we keep it in mind. And they have a lot of people around them. So it's really, really a big portion of the population with a great purchase power. And they definitely are one of your clients. And if you think that they are not, it's just because you're not educated, like you just don't know it yet. But believe me, among your clientele, there is a lot of people with disability that can benefit from this. So um, investing in accessibility is truly an investment and have a great benefit on your business. And now I will leave it back to Jan on how we can improve accessibility and how we can get this done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the background. Very good. Um, I'm thinking, do we take we take the questions later. Yeah, how to improve the accessibility of your website. Basically, that's the look into our tools that we provide. On one hand, the accessibility widget, on the other hand, the scanner. The accessibility widget and the scanner both come with the package that you can activate in your account. So when you log into your Console Manager account, on the right top corner, you have a orange upgrade button. You click on upgrade, and then on the next page you have this add-ons section. There's a accessibility widget add-on, or now it's called accessibility widget and scanner add-on. You just add this to your existing package. The requirement is you need to have an existing package, meaning free users can't use it. So you need to have either the starter. We just renamed the packages: starter, essential, professional, or ultimate. So you need to have one of those packages so that you can actually add an add-on. If you don't have a package, you can't add an add-on. By the beginning or by the middle of this month, basically with our next monthly update, we will also have a freestanding accessibility package, so that if you have the free package, you can just buy the widget and the scanner without having the CMP package. Pricing starts at 15 euros per month. It includes 3 domains or subdomains and 30,000 page impressions per month. Additional page impressions will cost 50 cents per thousand. So if you have 40,000 instead of 30,000, you will pay 5 euros more, so 20 euros in total for 40,000 page impressions, for example. It includes both the widget and the scanner. You can use the one or the other. Yesterday we had a lot of questions from customers. Once you have the package, you have both features enabled, but you don't need to use them. So they interact with each other, meaning it makes sense to use them both at the same time. But if you don't want to have a widget and you just want to have the scanner, for example, you can do this. The other way, the same. You can use the widget but ignore the scanner. It's also fine. So they are two separate features that work together but don't need to work together, right? The setup is quite easy. I will just show my screen. Let's see if it works. So let's move this here, and then we need to tell Zoom to switch the thing. This one. So now you should see my browser. So basically, yeah, so there's the upgrade button that we talked about before. Then in order to activate the widget, there is this accessibility widget icon in your menu. You can just create a new widget. It asks you for your website. I don't know, my website, .com. Click on create, and it will create the widget. Takes a moment. And then once it's there, there's not much that you need to do. I mean, you need to get the widget into your website. And that's either done by using an existing CMP code. So if you have the cookie banner, the CMP already in your page, the Console Manager cookie banner, not every cookie banner. If you have the Console Manager cookie banner, then you can just use an existing one. So you just say, okay, here my website, and you assign this. So basically then you don't need to add an additional code. The existing code that you have in your website will deliver both the cookie banner and the accessibility widget. There is no additional change needed. If you don't use the cookie banner, or if for other reasons you want to separate them, there's an extra code for the widget. So that's the code that really just shows the accessibility widget without the cookie banner. So if you don't use the consent manager cookie banner, for example, you can use this. There's some additional settings that you can do. For example, you can change the language, the position of the widget. There's some more advanced settings to move the position of the widget around. But most clients basically go with the default settings. One more thing is all the domains where you use the widget need to be approved. That's here in the settings. So when you add the code to another domain, this domain will automatically appear in this list, and then you need to approve or reject the domain. Otherwise, the widget will not appear on this page. It's basically the same behavior as when you use our cookie banner. Then you also have the list with the domains that you need to approve. Once it is approved, let's show it on our website. Let's move this one there. So that's the consent manager website, right? So we have the widget here on the right bottom corner. So it will show the circle with this person on it. The user can click on it and can activate the thing. And there's a lot of settings that can be done. Let's say we just make this bigger here, or we want to have a contrast, or let's say I'm want to have a reading mask, right? So then it follows the screen or the mouse. So there's a lot of options that the user can do in order to, let's get back to normal. So in order to make it easier for users to read and or to digest the website, basically. You see a lot of font or content things, coloring, orientation things, things like blocking sounds, etc. Lots and lots of features that help the users. I said it can be customized. The customization is these settings here, so you can set the colors, the position of the thing. Lots of features that you can do there. So that's the widget in a very, very short overview. The widget will help you on your path to compliance, but it will not 100% automatically make you compliant, because there's always things, or there can be things, sorry, there can be things in your website code that can just not be fixed by the widget. That is where the scanner comes into play. The scanner, I just created one here already. The accessibility scanner is automatically enabled when you have the accessibility package. It comes automatically with every CMP and every monitor that you create. So if you have a CMP, you activate the accessibility package, the scanner will automatically also check the accessibility of the website. If you have a monitor activated, same thing. The compliance monitor will be active plus the accessibility monitor. Or same thing, if you start a manual crawl, it will also then not only crawl for compliance, but also crawl for accessibility. In the overview of the crawler, you have this new 2 menu points there, accessibility issues and pages. The issues basically is the view on all the issues that were found on your page, and then just you list them down, gives you an info on how severe these issues are, what types of issues, and over time, if you worked on the issues. So I created this monitor yesterday. I have some data from yesterday and from today. So we already started fixing some issues, right? So that's why the number is going down. Perfect. That's how it should be. And then over time, hopefully, right, it will be at 0 at one point. What you would do is basically look at the issues. For each of the issues, there is a severity. So I would usually start with the highest severity. You can expand these things, get some more detail on what needs to be done. You will see the pages where it should be, or where it found the issues, where it should be fixed. And then for each page, you can expand further and see, okay, this element here, you can expand this again. This element needs to be fixed. There is something, in this case, there is some alt text. So there's an image and the image doesn't have an alt text. So the user will not understand what this image basically says. So you should go in there and, see there's this alt text and it's empty. You should add some description to it. That's just one example here. There's lots of tests that the system will do. They are all somehow aligned to the WCAG levels. So the WCAG has 3 levels: A, AA, and AAA. So you will see them in this list. There's also some checks that we do just for best practice. So that's not part of the WCAG standard, but it's still recommended just to make it easier to use the website. So we also highlight these things. The issue overview is this. As said, you can also look at the same thing just by the pages that you're having on your website. So that is if you want to see, my internet is super quick today. So if you want to see the, which websites have issues, again, start maybe with the websites with the highest issues. And then you can work your way down, or if you want to look at specific pages and say, okay, what are the issues on this page? Okay, yeah, we need to do something there. Right? As said, you can use the widget. You don't need to use the widget. You can use the scanner. You don't need to use the scanner. The best recommendation is always to have both at the same time. The widget will help you overcome some of these, let's say, technical issues. Plus, it will help you with the practical use of the website. That is something that changing the HTML code will not do, right? So if I'm, let's say I'm easily distracted and I need the reading mask to better focus on the reading, that's something that fixing your HTML code will not fix. At the same time, if there is a real HTML issue, so to say, that's something that might the widget not fix. That's something that we might discover here. So it's always good to use both of it. So that was the quick intro. Let's just get back to my presentation. Zoom. Zoom is complicated sometimes. So that's the presentation. So widget setup we had, widget usage we had, scanner usage we also had. Wonderful. So then last slide for today. When to use what? On the one hand, I said Accessiway and Content Manager are sister companies, so you're very welcome to use either. The accessibility widget itself is done by Accessiway. So we have a simpler version, an easy version that is integrated into Content Manager. So you can get an advanced solution from Accessiway. So that's for customers that want a bit more basically. The Content Manager widget and scanner is directly integrated in your existing account. It's easy. It's the quick start towards accessibility, right? So if you either don't have the budget or if you really just want to start going with it, that's when Content Manager is the right choice for you. That's usually good for small websites up to 1 million page impressions. If you are bigger or if you have more advanced needs, or if you also have not just a website, but there's many other things that might need to be fixed for accessibility, then please get in touch with our colleagues at Accessiway. As said, they have more advanced solutions, more features. They are specialized on the topic, right? Content Manager is specialized on compliance, but there's always more specialization for certain topics. That's where Accessiway is the better choice. And one really important thing is they have the experts like Eduardo here, for example, that can really help you with all these details that you need. It's good for websites from 1 million and up, or if you have, as I said, special needs or special cases. There is also, just for the pricing, because the question came yesterday also several times. For the pricing, there is packages for when you have more websites. when you have, let's say you're an agency, you have some 100 websites, etc. There's cases for this, so that you can manage multiple websites or many websites. There's also a partner program, an affiliate program, etc., for agencies and companies that are in the web building, etc. So please reach out to our sales team or to the partner team. They can help you with everything. Same if you have bigger websites. If you have, let's say, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, etc. page impressions, that's where Accessible can provide you solutions that are then also a bit there's a bit more rebate possible, right? So that was the questions yesterday. Then let's go to your questions. I see you already wrote some in the Q&A box. So please feel free, if you have more questions that we did not answer yet, to just put them in a box. And we will try to answer them. I will just go through them. Eduardo, the first is I think there's more for you, but let's start with the first. The first is for you. How and where do we make the CE mark and the EU Declaration of Conformity?
So first of all, the CE mark is about products. So if you develop products, you are probably taking care of CE marks for many other technical requirements that are required in the EU space. So it's just a matter of showcasing how the product is built in an accessible way, and we can help you define that. So if you have a product that you market, physical product and hardware and something like that, and you need help with the certification, we can do the test necessary and give you the information to put to make sure that you can include it in your CE mark. For the EU Declaration of Conformity for website and application is again something that we can provide after an expert audit. So it's a service that Accessiway provides, and we can, after we do a quick audit, manual audit from an expert of your website or application, we can deliver to you the document needed for you to be published.
Yeah, perfect. Next one. To what level do websites need to be accessible? If we use the accessibility checker, does the website need to fully meet the WCAG guidelines 100% to avoid fines, or is partial compliance acceptable? Just to add, I mean, the WCAG also, there's these 3 levels, A, AA, and AAA. How much do we need to do, Eduardo?
Yeah, of course. So the percentage is a bit of an issue when it comes to accessibility, because the distinction between non-compliant, semi-compliant, and fully compliant is that anything below 50 is non-compliant. Anything between 50 and 99 is semi, and then only 100% is fully compliant, which kind of doesn't make sense as you can imagine, because between 50 and 99 there is a very big difference. So what you need to look for is more than 90% of criteria met, including the non-applicable. So that's that makes it a bit easier, and no critical errors. If you have an error that is critical, so it's a high priority error, and it means that it prevents certain users from having an accessible experience, that must be resolved. And when you have a website that doesn't have critical errors, generally you are meeting around 90%, and this is what you should strive for, because at the end the checks will be done on actual usability and with manual audits. So always handle this like as much as you can in details, because the checks that eventually the authority will do is manual, and it will be a usability test. So take care of the critical errors.
Perfect. Then yesterday we also had several questions on who actually needs to do this. Let's say there was a very specific example yesterday. A butcher shop, so basically an offline shop, has 10 or more employees, so it would fall under this criteria. but the website is basically just like a business card, so to say. They don't do any business on this website. Would they fall under it? Or there was examples like public schools, or everything that's like let's say public sector. There was examples for job search websites, newspapers. Can you give some examples? When would it apply and when would it not apply?
Sure. So as I said at the beginning, the criteria that we need to think and take in mind and keep in mind is the service provided via the website. So if, again, you have something that is merely informative, again, like a business card with an image and a logo and contacts, first of all, that is generally accessible by itself because if I have a few text and images, I can easily understand and use the website and get the information. So it is accessible by itself because of its simplicity. But as soon as we enter the realm of having call to actions, forms, anything that is helping the user to perform a transaction and to get the service that your company is providing, that needs to be accessible. And again, I also think it's important to think about this aspect. If you have a very easy website that does very few things, it will also be very easy to make it accessible. So like the widget will do a great job on it, etc. So and the more you go in a complex environment, the higher probability is that you will need to be perfectly accessible, and so that you need to do more. But the effort that we invest in thinking if we don't need to be accessible, and if we maybe are out of the law, is sometimes greater than becoming accessible itself.
Yeah, good saying. So, but just to be clear, so the butcher, so to say, would fall out of this example, right? It's too simple
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
out.
would,
Yeah. So if yeah, absolutely,
is
absolutely.
there
Follow.
a difference between public public institutions versus companies? Like
Public institution without any distinction, they need to be accessible, even if they are merely informative, because it's public service, it's publicly funded, so they must be accessible. But also in many countries, much before the European Accessibility Act. And for private entities, again, it depends on this aspect. So what is the touch point doing?
Yeah. Do I need to make my private website compliant?
Well, if you're your personal website, like janwinkler.com, something like that. Well, it depends. Like if you are generally no, I think, because I mean I'm just thinking about a general example. If you provide services, you would generally provide service to companies, and you will most likely have a form on it. But yeah, you don't need to do it. It's everything that is public facing and for offering products and services to the public needs to be. But no, as a person, generally you should not. But again, it's a very cheap solution to make your website accessible. If you have a blog, for example. Many people have a blog on a personal website that's easy to make accessible, and it's an advantage to do it.
Yeah. And the distinction between, I mean, e-commerce is quite sure what is e-commerce, right? I'm selling products, I can buy something. But this distinction, services, is a newspaper website, for example, would this be considered a service, a normal newspaper?
A newspaper is media, absolutely, is audiovisual media.
Yeah, okay,
and so it's a category of itself that is absolutely covered.
Okay. Then we have more questions. Do we need to add the accessibility? Well, sorry. Do we need to add the accessible widget icon to show compliancy? Or how do you actually need to show compliance? Do you need to show compliance?
So you show compliance with the declaration and by saying so what you have done to be accessible, and generally in the statement you would say that you have installed the widget to enhance the accessibility of your website. And yes, the widget itself is is a very immediate way to see that you have an accessibility enhancement on your website.
if I have a blog on my e-commerce website, so I have multiple subcategories, so to say, on my website, does the blog also need to fulfill the guidelines, or just the e-commerce part? Can I separate my website basically in compliant and not compliant parts?
Not really, because you're speaking about the same environment. And again, so when you're looking at accessibility, we need to think about accessibility of the templates. So making a blog page template and an article page template accessible is, again, generally easy to do, and it allows you to make the full website completely accessible. You most likely have blog articles to drive traffic and conversions, and that is under the same website. So the statement would also cover both environments, unless you have a blog that is linked in the e-commerce, but is a completely different user experience. In that case, can be seen as a different website, and in that case, it doesn't fall under the category. I don't know if I was clear, but I hope.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're good with the questions. Otherwise, last choice, not last choice, last chance to add some more questions if you have some. Otherwise, I would say we're also good with the time. So then I would say 3, 2, 1. No more questions. Okay, perfect. Then we just take it as it is. We thank you for your participation, for listening to us. Thank you, Eduardo, for giving so many insights. We hope you can all use our tools and make your websites a bit more compliant, a bit more accessible. And maybe Eduardo, last words.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, and see you next time.
Perfect. Then
Bye-bye.
goodbye.